ecosystems. I've been listening to your conversations. You guys seem to be having a great conversation with each other, talking about your animals, getting to know each other, and that only makes this a better class. So great job with all of that. As you may or may not have noticed, after each class, I have been going back in and I have been correcting your assignments. So we'll see your grades. Basically, your grades are either a 0 or 100. Either you're getting 100 because you turn them in, or you're getting a 0 because you don't. If you do not complete an assignment and you want to go back and complete it, please just go ahead and do so. And each week when I go and check, I will see there's a new grade from you, and I can go back and grade that one as well. Okay, so we're done with the chit-chat and the text chat, and it is time for class to begin. We are going to go ahead and get started looking at your homework from last week, so I am going to pull it up for us. We had 100% completion on our homework, so fantastic job, and congratulations to all of you. We are going to start with MacArthur. If you would like to share what you read about the watery ecosystem, that would be fantastic. So MacArthur, go right ahead. I'm not able to hear you, MacArthur. Can we all just go ahead and look at our wrench at the bottom left-hand side of our screen? Go ahead and click on the wrench. Make sure that the correct microphone is chosen. For example, I need to have chosen Logitech USB headset because that is the headset that I use. So if you could go ahead, MacArthur, and try again. And if it doesn't work this time, I'll go ahead and read for you. It doesn't seem to be coming through. So I'm going to go ahead and I will read for us. So MacArthur has week 3 watery area activity. One day I went to the lake on our farm. I saw trees, dirt, water, plants, dogs, and a wooden fence. My dog went swimming in the lake. I heard the water waving in the wind, birds chirping, cows mooing, and dogs barking. I smelled pine from the nearby trees. I saw fish swimming around in the water. I felt the warm sun on my face. Great job, MacArthur. Bay, go ahead and why don't you share yours with us? Would you like to share, Bay, or would you like me to go ahead and talk? If you guys don't want to talk and you want me to share yours, that's perfectly fine. Just go ahead and put a note in the text chat and I can share with us.
The chat isn't working.
Okay, so Bay wrote, it was bad weather. It rained and the wind blew very hard. It was almost stormy. The water stream was very fast. The grass on the side of the water was wet and muddy. There were muddy puddles everywhere. I could hear the wind blow and the cows moo. Fantastic job, Bay. Sarah, you are up next. Would you like to share or would you like me to? Go ahead, Sarah, whenever you're ready.
As I sat on a log near the water, I saw the fish swim by. I also saw frogs playing in the mud. I even saw an alligator in the
Oh my. Fantastic job, but I am certainly glad I was not there because an alligator is not something that I would want to see anywhere near me. Great job, Sarah. Okay, Arsad, would you like to go ahead and share yours? Okay, Arsad wrote, I see a deer eating grass. I hear the birds chirp. I feel the cool wind blowing gently. And when I observe... I'm sorry, that's the end of his. Bella, would you like to share yours? Okay. Alrighty, Bella wrote, when I observed our river, it was cloudy and cold. The water was very cold to touch. I could see and hear the geese honking. When the wind the water would make ripples. I could smell wood burning in a fire. Great job, Bella. Okay, Xana, would you like to share yours?
Yes.
All right, whenever you're ready, Xana.
I went to a lake on a warm, cloudy day. I walked across the grass and I sat on a bench next to the lake. I saw a turtle swimming in the water and birds flying in the sky. I saw flowers and rocks next to the H2O. I heard birds singing and felt wind blowing.
Awesome. Now, Jackson, for some reason, yours didn't come through. Do you happen to have it there that you could read for me? Xana, you have a question?
Are you talking to me? I not know.
No, Jackson. Jackson, did you want to share it or not? If you want to, just turn your mic on, Jackson. All right. Well, like I had said earlier, great job on the homework. I was very, very impressed with everything that you guys had done. So what we are going to do now is we are going to start talking about watery ecosystems. There's lots of different types of watery ecosystems. I told you on your homework to concentrate on a freshwater ecosystem, a stream, a lake, or a river, but there are also saltwater ecosystems. What I would like to do is do a little brainstorming, okay? And we're going to take turns talking, and I'm going to do some writing on the whiteboard. So if you guys want to make your whiteboard larger, now we have two main types of watery ecosystems. Those watery ecosystems are freshwater and saltwater. There are different plants and organisms that exist in each of these. So let's take a look at freshwater first and see what we can come up with. So go ahead, raise your hand, and let me know one or two organisms, either plants or animals, that exist in freshwater ecosystems? Sarah.
Snakes and frogs.
Awesome. Snakes and frogs. Good job. No one can see me because I turned my video off. If some of you are getting a lag, it works better without my video on. So, I'm looking for one or two organisms that live in fresh water. Sarah gave me snakes and frogs. Xana.
Moss and lily pads.
Awesome. Moss and lily pads. Jackson. I'm not able to hear you, Jackson, so maybe you can put it in the text chat. Oh, or maybe you just came through. Go ahead and try again, Jackson.
And turtles.
Awesome. Turtles. Okay, Bay, you had your hand up as well. Some sort of organism in fresh water. Very good. Birds. All right. Arsad, what's something in fresh water? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to understand you, Arsad. So go ahead and try it one more time. You may have to move your microphone a little bit away from your face.
Fish.
Awesome. Fish. Okay. Who else had their hand up? Anyone else have any freshwater organisms? MacArthur, go ahead. I wasn't able to hear you. Jackson, go ahead.
Grass and trees.
Awesome. Along the edges are grass and trees. Sometimes alligators. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to come up with some saltwater organisms. So, Sarah, go ahead. Give me some saltwater organisms.
Fish and seaweed.
Very good. Xana, saltwater organisms.
Manatees and seagrass.
Awesome job. Manatees and seagrass. Jackson, go ahead.
Eels, shark, and coral.
Awesome. Bay, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat that again? You were really quiet. Bay, go ahead. Give me those again, please.
Yes, you can say. Yes. Yes.
Alrighty, Arsad, what did you have?
And dolphin.
Alrighty, Jackson.
Anemones.
MacArthur, go ahead. Stingrays. Great job. You guys did a great job brainstorming. There are some organisms that would cross over between the two. The ones that come to mind first for me are birds. Okay, there are birds that are freshwater and saltwater. Grasses and trees can be found along both freshwater and saltwater. There is some freshwater seaweed. And there are a few types of sharks, like the bull shark, that can go in both saltwater and freshwater. Great job on that. We are going to talk about both saltwater and freshwater today. We are going to start by talking about sort of the differences between the two and aquatic ecosystems in general. So go ahead and take a look up at your PowerPoint screen. And up on your PowerPoint screen, you'll see two pictures. You'll see a picture at the top right with the continents and all of the oceans labeled. There's the Pacific Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and the Indian Ocean. Those are the major oceans in the world. On the bottom left, you have the major rivers. Now, if you look closely, the continents aren't labeled, but the rivers on the continent are. So in the U.S., you have the Mississippi River. You have the Nile River on here. You have the Yellow River on here. And a few of the other major rivers. There obviously are more tributaries, which are the smaller rivers that are connected to these larger rivers, all along these rivers. But we're going to focus on this main group of rivers. So let's take a look at the difference between the two watery ecosystems, being freshwater and saltwater. Water in general takes up more than 70% of the earth. That means that if you divided the earth into 10 equal parts, 7 of those 10 parts would be made up of water. Sort of like you can look at it like a pie chart that some of you may have done in math. The water on Earth is categorized into two groups, either freshwater or saltwater. Basically, saltwater has salt in it, and freshwater contains very little salt. Does anyone want to read this slide about saltwater ecosystems for me? Any volunteers? Jackson, go ahead.
Seas and some lakes are examples of saltwater ecosystems. The amount of salt in each one is not the same. Plants and animals live in the shallow, not deep parts because the sun shines more in these areas.
Great job. Thank you very much. Plants and animals live in the shallow parts of the oceans because they can get the light and use the light from the sun. Now, that's not to say that there aren't any animals that live deep, but most of the animals live towards the surface. All right, a volunteer to read this one about oceans? Zana, you can read this one, and Sarah, you can read the next one.
Ocean zones. Oceans are the world's largest ecosystem. Water is deeper in some places than in others, and the water temperature also changes. The ocean is divided into three zones. The zones are defined by how much sunlight gets. The deeper water, the colder and darker it becomes. Plants and animals can be found in the areas closer to the surface.
Thank you very much. And, well, not this one, Sarah, but the next one we can read. So here is a picture of the zones of the ocean. Now, this is just your typical continent where it goes to the ocean. So on the very left of this screen, you can see some mountains and some trees, and then you see the ocean with some dolphins jumping in it and some fish. The ocean does not all of a sudden just drop to be hundreds of thousands of feet deep. It is a slow, gradual, and sort of stepped entrance into the ocean. Now, the first part that we are most familiar with of the ocean, the beaches, can be hundreds of feet long or wide. So it will gradually get shallow and maybe up to your neck, maybe to about 20 or 30 feet for hundreds of feet. And then all of a sudden there'll be a steeper drop-off, and then it will go down. And then the same thing. It will get slowly shallower or slowly deeper for hundreds of feet, and then there's another steep drop-off. And then there is this steep drop-off, and that is called the continental shelf. So if any of you have ever seen Finding Nemo, that's the drop-off Nemo's dad was talking about. Some animals that are found in saltwater ecosystems are fish, crustaceans like crabs, sponges, sharks, penguins, whales, and other penguins. Oh. Okay, if for some reason you're not able to see the slide, you may want to just hit the refresh button on your screen, RSAD. So Sarah, this one is all yours. Go right ahead, Sarah.
I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't hear you. All I heard was typing for a minute, and when everybody was saying that they couldn't see the half of it.
Okay, can you hear me now? And see it now? I'm hoping that everyone can see. Let's do a quick little poll. Can you see my screen now? It says fresh water. Okay, just answer yes or no for me if you can see it where it says fresh water. Okay, sometimes, guys, if it goes out, if you have a bad internet connection, you may, and it certainly can happen on my end as well, but you may just need to hit the refresh button. So just try that first and see if that corrects the problem. So, Sarah, it is your turn to go ahead and read about freshwater ecosystems.
freshwater ecosystems. These include rivers, streams, lakes, and ponds. Rivers and streams have water. The water may be moving fast or slow. Lakes are usually large or deeper than ponds. Just like in the ocean, plants and animals live in the shallow, less deep parts. The sun shines more in the shallow parts.
Very good. Thank you very much. So there are more types of freshwater ecosystems: rivers, streams, lakes, and ponds. However, there can be a lot of the same animals between different rivers, different streams, lakes, and different ponds. For example, bullfrogs are probably an animal that some of you have heard before croaking at night. Well, there's bullfrogs in lots of different lakes, ponds, and streams, but not as much in rivers. They like calmer water. Along or in rivers, you may find alligators down in the southern United States, but those alligators can also be found in streams and lakes and ponds. Generally speaking, the difference between a river and a stream is rivers have faster moving water and are deeper. So some animals that are found in freshwater ecosystems are turtles, grebes, which are a type of bird, trout, pufferfish, pelicans, otters, and bullfrogs. Sarah, do you have a question?
I do. What is the second bird? Like that second word? I have no clue what. I've never heard of it. I've never seen a thing like that.
The bird, it's called a grebe. And it's just a type of bird that likes to eat fish, so it's generally found along ponds and lakes. There's tons and tons of different types of birds who really like to eat the fish and hang out around lakes and ponds. And we have pelicans, otters, and bullfrogs. So let's take a look and try to see if we think these types of ecosystems are freshwater or saltwater. So in the United States, on the map, they're circled in red in the top right, there are the Great Lakes. I'm going to see what you think. Are the Great Lakes in the U.S. fresh or salt water? I don't want you to raise your hand yet. Go ahead and answer this for me. Are they fresh or salt water? Great job. Almost all of you got it. They are freshwater ecosystems. They are a lake, which is a type of fresh water. So great job. Now, we are going to take a look at a very specific saltwater ecosystem called a coral reef. Raise your hand if you have heard of coral reefs before. Okay, well, coral reefs are a saltwater biome. There's a picture of a coral reef right here. So what is a coral reef? Coral reefs are a structure formed by coral polyps, which are tiny ants that live in colonies. These coral polyps form a hard, stony, branching structure made of limestone. New polyps or new corals attach to old corals and gradually build the reef. Raise your hand if you have ever been snorkeling or scuba diving on a coral reef. Awesome. Do either of you want to describe what you might have seen? Xana, do you want to describe what you saw on a coral reef?
Stingrays and fish.
All right, very good. Jackson, would you like to describe maybe what did it look like?
It looked beautiful under the water, and you could see coral, and I even saw some fish that were eating other tiny fish.
Awesome. Arsad, would you like to share what you saw on the coral reef?
It looked like a park.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I hit the button too soon.
It looked like a park. It looked like Carrefour.
Very good. It was very colorful. Great job. Anyone else want to share what they saw on a coral reef? Okay, when I have been on a coral reef, oh, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I couldn't hear Arsad.
Oh, okay. He said that it was very colorful and it looked like a park. Basically, when I've been snorkeling or diving on coral reefs, it looks like a lot of different shapes. Some types of corals are circular, almost like a soccer ball, and some look like trees with lots of different branches growing off of them. Some look like fans, like the people used to use in the old days because there was no air conditioning, where they used to fan themselves. And basically, all of these different shapes are all together to form a big structure. So you might have a circular shape connected to a fan sitting on top of a tree branch looking coral. And all together, these shapes and these corals form a coral reef. There's some different types of coral reefs. There's fringing reefs and barrier reefs. Fringing reefs is when a coral reef starts at the shore and extends out into the ocean. These are the ones you probably have snorkeled on, where they're relatively close to shore and shallow. Barrier reefs are a little bit away from the shore, but they follow the same shape as the shore. So if the shape of the shore is circular, then the barrier reef is circular. But it's separated from shore by water. The Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest barrier reef. In Australia it is located. Another type of a coral reef is called an atoll. An atoll is a ring-shaped island of coral that is located in the open ocean. It's formed on a submerged mud bank or a volcanic crater and surrounded by a seawater lagoon. Now there is normally a channel that connects the lagoon to the sea. So here's the coral reefs of the world. They're in yellow in the middle of the blue oceans. Now we're going to fast forward a little here, and we're going to look at some specific animals of the coral reef. All right. Okay, here we have some seagrasses. And we're just going to look at the pictures, so don't worry about reading the words on these. The words aren't as important as the pictures right now. We have some seagrasses that grow near coral reefs. These seagrasses are great for animals to hide in. Here is a picture of an actual coral reef. Now if you look at the coral towards the right, the purple one, it has sort of branches sticking up from it, almost like a tree. Towards the bottom, the green, those are fan-shaped corals. And then the top and the white, those are called staghorn corals. And those are branch-like as well. Here is a picture of an actual coral polyp. Now the coral that we just looked at is made up of lots of these coral polyps. Hundreds of thousands of millions of them. A coral polyp is the actual coral animal. It lives inside the hard casing, and when the animal dies, the hard casing stays there, but the soft-bodied animal does not. As the coral is a living animal or living organism, it needs to eat. So it uses tentacles that come out of the top that kind of wave in the air to capture their food. They have a digestive sac, which is labeled as basically like their stomach, but it's not as evolved as a human stomach. So it's called a digestive sac. And here we have a familiar scene, probably, with a sea anemone and some clownfish on a coral reef. Both sea anemones and clownfish are common animals on the coral reef. We have sharks and angelfish and seahorses. Now, one thing you might be thinking is, well, with all of this water, either freshwater or saltwater on the earth, how does it stay clean? Does anyone know how the water on earth stays clean? Because humans do an awful lot to pollute it. Jackson, what do you think?
People that don't like pollution, they take a lot of the litter out of the water, and like extra food that falls into the water sometimes gets eaten by animals in the water.
Very good. There are people and organizations that go around and clean up our oceans or our waterways. Very good. There are animals that eat what we would consider to be garbage. So great idea. Great job, Jackson. Anyone have another idea? How might the oceans and freshwater ecosystems get cleaned? Xana, go ahead.
It settles to the bottom.
Some of it does settle to the bottom. Sarah, do you have a guess?
Divers could dive in and get some. And what if some divers were going for fish and they picked up garbage instead?
Very good. That is a good possibility as well. There's also something called the water cycle. Give me a smile face next to your name if you have ever heard of the water cycle. I'm going to put it up on your whiteboard for you. Maybe once you see it, it will spark your memory. Oh. Maybe it's not on the whiteboard. Hold on, let me find it. Here it is. It's going to be on your PowerPoint screen. Okay, so some of you have heard of the water cycle before, which is great. Here's a picture of the water cycle. Now it looks super complicated, but basically what the water cycle is it's a natural way for water to be filtered or recycled. So let's pretend we are a drop of water down in the ocean. We're in the Atlantic Ocean, hanging off of Florida, playing with some dolphins, and we're a drop of water. Okay? When it gets really hot and the sun is shining on the ocean, we can evaporate. What evaporation means is the water droplet goes up into the air, into the Earth's atmosphere, and it condenses, and it becomes part of a cloud. So now, instead of being in Florida, I'm part of a cloud, and I'm floating over Mississippi. And over Mississippi, the Earth's atmosphere changes, and it starts to rain or to precipitate. So now my drop of water is falling out of the sky, and I fall into the Mississippi River. Now when I'm in the Mississippi River, I may stay part of the river. I may go into the groundwater. If I stay part of the river, I eventually could go into the Gulf of Mexico and be off of Florida's coast again. So water continuously travels through this water cycle. And water cycle is a great way for water to be cleaned naturally. We're going to watch a short little video here with a way that water is cleaned or can be cleaned by people. So I'm going to put it up on my desktop for you guys. Give me 1 second to get to the video. I want you to pay attention to this video. You are going to write a lab report about the activity that the woman does in the video. And it's up on Moodle for you to watch again. But what she is doing is she is manually filtering the water. So let's take a look.
Into the 2-liter bottle with a cap. Place the cap on the bottle and shake the bottle for 30 seconds. Continue the aeration process by pouring the water back and forth between 2 cups or containers. Do this about 10 times. Once the water is aerated, gases have escaped. Pour the dirty water back into the bottle with its top cut off. Add 1 tablespoon of alum to the aerated water. Slowly stir the mixture for 5 minutes. You'll start to see particles in the water cling together to make larger clumps. Sedimentation is the process that occurs when gravity pulls the particles of flock to the bottom of the container. Allow the water to stand undisturbed for 20 minutes. Attach the coffee filter to the outside neck of the bottle with a rubber band, completely covering the hole in the top of the bottle. Turn it upside down and pour the pebbles in. Pour the coarse sand on top of the pebbles. Pour the fine sand on top of the coarse sand. Clean the filter by slowly pouring clean tap water through. Try not to disturb the top layer of sand as you pour the water. After water has filtered, pour the water out of the container. Filtration through a sand and pebble filter removes most of the impurities in the water. Take your dirty water and pour 1/2 to 2/3 through the filter. Once the filter stops dripping, compare the finished water with the dirty water. What are the differences? Remember, although this water is filtered, it is still not safe to consume.
Hey everybody, Craig Connor from Nation.
Oh.
Yes, sir. What I'm going to do.
Okay, so while the woman in the video was filtering water using water filtration items such as flock and such as a coffee filter, the water cycle, water filters water or cleans water naturally. Some other things that clean water naturally are mangroves. Okay, mangroves naturally filter water through the roots of the plants and through the grasses and dirt that the water has to pass through. Now, for your homework this week, we have a couple of different tasks. The first task is I would like you guys to practice writing a lab report. Now, instead of having you do a lab report, we are going to write a lab report on what the woman in the video just did. So we're going to talk through it right now. Up on your PowerPoint screen, I'm putting a document that's called Lab Report Template. This is how I would like your lab report written. Okay, you're going to follow this precisely, exactly the way this is written. You are going to give your lab a title. You can name your lab whatever you would like. You are going to make a guess. Will the woman be able to successfully clean her water? Well, we kind of already know this answer because we just watched the video, so try to think about what you might guess. I'm going to say, yes, I believe the water will be cleaned. Materials. Write the items that were used. Now, you don't have an actual list of the materials, so you're just going to pause the video, and you are going to say, okay, she used a 2-liter bottle, she used sand, she used dirty water, and you're going to come up with a list of materials. You are going to come up with a procedure. Okay, what did she do? Did she shake the water up? Did she pour the water down the sink? What did she do? You can either write this single steps, so you can write 1 and then what she did, 2 and then what she did, 3 and then what she did. Then you are going to write your results. Your results for this lab are going to be very basic. She cleaned the water or she did not clean the water. And then your conclusion is going to be why. Why do you think she was able to clean the water? I am looking for you to just get the idea of writing a lab report down. We are going to start our first official lab of the week, of the class next week, when we are going to grow beans. Okay, so you may want to, or you were asked to for your homework for next week, to take some bean seeds and wrap them up in a paper towel next Monday night. That's going to let us plant them for class on Tuesday, and we are going to complete a lab with the bean seeds. Now, I had read earlier, and I can't remember who it was, that someone was having a hard time finding bean seeds. That's okay. If you can't find bean seeds, you can use any type of seed. Bean seeds or beans grow rather quickly. So that's why I suggested bean seeds, but it could be any type of seed. We're looking for a plant that is going to grow quickly and that we will be able to measure. So please, next Monday night, just wrap them in a paper towel, and I will try to send an email out reminding everybody. But we are going to start that lab next week, so if you could start your beans, it will make them grow quicker if they are softened for a night. Xana, do you have a question?
Is the paper supposed to be wet or dry?
Great question. You are going to take a paper towel, a damp paper towel, wet it in your sink, wring it out a little bit so it's still wet, maybe one that you would use to then go wash off your countertop. Something that wet, not that's going to form a puddle on your countertop, but something that's actually going to wipe stuff off your counter. And then just take your seeds and wrap them up inside of it, and then put them to the side. Either put them in a cup, put them in a little baggie, and then on Tuesday in class we are going to plant them. You can either wrap them in the paper towel first and then wet the paper towel, or wet the paper towel first and then wrap them. Either way works. And I will try my hardest to email you guys on Monday to remind you. So you have two parts to your homework. Part 1 is to write the lab report. Part 2 is to just simply wrap your bean seeds in a wet paper towel. Anyone have any questions on either of those two parts? All right. Well, if there's no more questions, we're going to take a look at a different type of watery ecosystem, and that is the Arctic seas, or the polar regions. This is a type of ecosystem that some of you probably don't know much about. So here's a map of this part of the world. This is a map of the Arctic regions. Northern Canada, northern Russia, Greenland, the Bering Sea. These are all parts of what is considered the Arctic region. So we're going to take a look at some animals that live in these Arctic regions. We have a tundra swan. Okay, guys, I'm going to lock the text chat again because some of you seem to be typing away. So here's a tundra swan. They live in the Arctic regions. Before pens, quills of whistling or tundra swans were a common implement or tool for writing. Unfortunately, thousands of these birds were killed for their feathers, and the whistling swan was driven almost to extinction. However, because of their isolation, we just saw this is not a populated region, the Arctic populations have persisted or have continued to live on. The herring gull. The herring gull is one of the larger members of the family Monogamous. meaning they only have one mate. They nest on rocky coastlines. They have a cosmopolitan feeding habit, which means they will eat whatever's around. And they have a very good memory for predators, so they remember who likes to eat them. Another species that lives in the Arctic region is the Arctic tern. The Arctic tern is the only species that migrates from the Arctic to Antarctic. They live in very large colonies of 100+ pairs. They can dive up to 10 meters deep in the water to eat, and they can live 30 years or longer. Sarah, you have a question?
What page are we supposed to be on? Like, are we supposed to be in the top right or the top left?
You should be in the top right now. There is a picture of an Arctic tern, which is a bird. And I'm going to turn it right now, and I actually turned my video off so we don't get confused. There's a puffin, which is another type of bird. Puffins swim along the surface of the water, and they dive down to swim after fish. They catch the fish and they hold it in their bill until it has a full load of fish. So until it is done fishing, some puffins have been known to catch up to 61 fish in a single fishing trip. So in a single dive, they can catch up to 61 fish. They arrange the fish crosswise in their bill, and they use their tongue to hold them against the roof of their mouth while it catches the next fish. They're not graceful flyers, however, they can fly. And they can reach speeds of up to 88 kilometers per hour. Go ahead, Sarah.
Mine just, it had note, but it went off before I even got to read it. And it was just being weird, and it just went off, and it came back to where it was.
I'm not sure what it might have said. If it happens again, let me know. But sometimes if your internet flips on or flips off, or you have a pop-up that pops up, sometimes that happens, but I'm not sure exactly. I can't see your screens, so I don't know exactly what it said on your screen. But unfortunately, that is where we are going to stop for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's class. We are going to go ahead next week, and we'll continue with this watery ecosystem until we can finish it up. And we are going to go ahead and start talking about plants next week and start growing our plants. I hope you guys have a great week. If you have any questions, certainly feel free to give me a call or send me an email. And don't forget your lab report and your beans. Sarah, you have a question? Go ahead.
I thought we were planting the beans this week, but I didn't plant them just in case.
Nope, we are going to plant the beans next week. We're just going to wrap them up. Alrighty? I hope you guys have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.